Hello, my name is Mark Lancaster, and I've been working as a developer and implementer of EDI systems for the last 25 years. In this video, I'll explain in non-technical terms what AS2 is, how it works, and what benefits it can give to your organization. A minimalist definition of AS2 would be a secure and reliable way to send files from one computer to another. Now, the important words here are secure and reliable. AS2 allows you to send data in a way that makes it readable only to the intended recipient. If anyone were to intercept what you're sending, they would have enormous difficulty making sense of it. In fact, for all practical purposes, it would be an impossible task. This is because the information you're sending is locked, and the only one who has the right key to unlock it is the organization you're sending it to. In AS2 terminology, this locking and unlocking process is known as encryption and decryption, and it gives us the secure part. The reliable part involves two things. The recipient needs to know that the file actually came from you, rather than someone pretending to be you. And the sender needs to know that it reached its destination successfully, and what they got was the same as what you sent. To achieve the first of these involves a process called signing. If you were writing a letter to someone, you'd normally end it with your signature. The person who receives your letter would recognize your signature and would be confident that it came from you rather than someone pretending to be you. The problem with this is that a skilled forger might be able to reproduce your signature accurately enough to fool the recipient into thinking their fake letter came from you. What's needed is a better signature, one that's virtually impossible to forge. Now, unfortunately, this is where my letter analogy breaks down a bit, because it's hard to imagine what an unforgeable written signature might look like. To make one, we need to make use of some complex mathematics, but luckily we don't need to understand the maths in order to use it. The signing process AS2 uses is similar to the locking and unlocking I described earlier. The signature can only be created by the person or organization that has the right key, but anyone else can prove that it's valid. These digital signatures also do something else. They allow the recipient to know that the data you've sent has not been tampered with or accidentally damaged while it was in transit. This involves a thing called a hash, and the best way to understand what a hash is by another analogy. Imagine you have a bank statement that lists all the receipts and payments that have gone through your account over the last year. The bank sends the same statement to your accountant, but you're concerned that the statement you see could be different from the one your accountant sees. To check that they're the same, you phone your accountant and tell him or her what the opening balance was at the start of the first page and what the closing balance was at the end of the last page. If the accountant sees the same numbers, then you can be reasonably confident that the two statements are the same. In effect, the combination of the opening balance and the closing balance are a hash. It allows you to verify that the statements are identical without having to check each and every transaction individually. Obviously, this isn't perfect. It's quite possible that somewhere within the statement there's one transaction that's too high and another that's too low, but by exactly the same amount, so it ultimately makes no difference to the closing balance. Here's where complex mathematics comes to the rescue again. The method AS2 uses to calculate the hash has been designed to detect even the most minor differences and eliminate the cancelling out effect that could have fooled us before. So, when the recipient checks the signature to verify that the data actually came from you, they also check the hash to ensure that it hasn't changed in any way. If both the signature and the hash are good, then they can be confident that the data is genuine and actually came from you. When AS2 is used to send a file, it goes through a number of steps. The starting point is the file we want to send. AS2 will first create the digital signature using the private key that only you have. This signature includes the hash that was calculated using the data contained within the file to be sent. This signature and its hash are then tagged on to the end of the file. AS2 now encrypts, or locks, the file so that it can only be decrypted, or unlocked, by the intended recipient. The end result looks like a total mess that will make no sense to anyone except the recipient. This encrypted file is then sent to the recipient via the internet. When they get it, they use their private key to decrypt it and see the data you sent plus the signature that AS2 added to it. They can then check the signature to verify that the file came from you, and also check the hash to ensure that the data is undamaged. If both of them check out, they can then do whatever they need to do with the data, confident that it's genuine. The other thing we need for the reliable part is to inform the sender that the file came through successfully and checked out without any problems. This is done using a thing called an electronic receipt. Imagine you'd used a courier service to deliver something valuable you just sold on eBay. The courier's website has a tracking page that lets you see an image of the signature made by the person who took delivery. This is an electronic receipt, but as you'd expect by now, it's not good enough for AS2. The electronic receipts it uses contain a second hash, one that the recipient calculated after they decrypted the file you sent to them. Now, even though they have no idea what this hash should be, they can still calculate their own. When your AS2 system sent them the original file, it did the same thing. It calculated the hash and then made a note of it for later use. When the electronic receipt comes in, it compares the hash in the receipt with the one it made a note of, and if they match, it tells you two things. First, you'll know that the recipient was able to successfully decrypt the file you sent to them. They must have been able to, because that's the only way they could have come up with the right hash. Second, you'll know that what they received was identical to what you sent. For good measure, the electronic receipts are also signed by the recipient, so you can satisfy yourself that the receipt came from them rather than someone pretending to be them. In practice, all of the processes and checks I've described are performed by your AS2 software. All you have to do is give the software a file and tell it where to send it. It then does everything else. So, if you or your business needs a secure and reliable method of getting files from A to B, then AS2 would certainly be an excellent choice. It's way safer than sending the files as email attachments, and far more reliable than most of the other alternatives. If you'd like to make use of AS2 within your organisation, then please contact us using the details shown here. We'll be happy to help. Thank you.